Welcome to Rick's Corner. I didn't have a guest today, and it's a rainy day in Los Angeles, and the streets are flooded, and you almost need a kayak to get anywhere. But I did get to the gym, and of course the gym was jammed with people. I do the North Hollywood Golds, which is more convenient to me than Venice. Nevertheless, it's like an old school gym, and Rich Piana are there, and a bunch of guys that you all know. But I wanted to... I have time today, so I wanted to sit and just chat a little bit. I get a lot of emails about the golden era, about the 70s and about the 80s, and it's an endless world of information because it was just an era like we've all discussed that will never be duplicated again. And I think back about it, and I think about the characters that we had in the gym, and I've talked about them before. Joe Gold, as I said, opened up the gym in 1965 down in Venice Beach. And he opened it for the guys who trained outdoors in the sand during bad weather. He had a cinder block building, and he built all of his own equipment. That equipment was probably the best equipment you'll ever use in your life, and now no one knows where it is. But there were characters, and Joe had a name for everybody. He had nicknames for people. Since my last name was Drayson, they called me Raisin, the sun-kissed kid. There was a Bugsy Siegel, who looked like a Chicago gangster. There was a Bug-Eyed Louie, whose eyes would bug out, that collected watches. Einar the plumber. Ed Giuliani was I forget his nickname, but Seymour Koenig was a snail because he was always late. These were characters like the old Our Gang comedies. And you don't see that today in the gym. I mean, one guy, Steve Neese, was called Moby Dick because he was big, heavy dude, but he went to pro wrestling and tripped on the ropes and couldn't even tie his shoes. He passed away. He was a writer, but a very good writer. The issue that I have, and the problem that I have with this was before cameras, not cameras, but video cameras. So you couldn't really shoot anything. Had I had a video camera, I would have made a documentary on all these guys. I would have had each and every one of them an interview, talked about them, and have their points of view of what we did, because in the gyms today you don't see that. It's a younger group today. It's not the same characters. It's not the same camaraderie. It's just not the same. But Joe's gym was, it became the mecca of bodybuilding, and it's a very, very strange way how this happened, because people around the world would see Gold's Gym in Muscle and Fitness or Muscle Power or Muscle Builder magazine. Actually, Muscle Builder, Muscle Power, Iron Man were much before Muscle and Fitness. And Dave Draper was training there along with a couple of the other guys, and Joe Weider would come down and shoot training shots of Dave and some of the other guys. Now, he used this for the magazine, and of course they'd load a lot of weight on the bar because it does attract attention in magazines. You see all these heavy weights and you think they're lifting them, and a lot of times they're not. But by putting this gym in the magazines worldwide, people thought, okay, Gold's Gym, the mecca bodybuilding, this is the place to go. And basically it was, but no one realized it's only about 4,000 square feet. It's a very, very small building, very compacted. Everything had its place. It had a water fountain on the wall and 2 showers upstairs, and it had a heater on the ceiling that didn't work because Joe never connected it. But it was for the guys. It wasn't made to usually for, that wasn't really made for public use worldwide. It just wasn't like that. So when Joe put it in the magazines, it became famous, and everybody came out from all over the world to train there. We had guys from Europe, all the top bodybuilders came to train with Arnold and Dave and all the guys, and it was like a melting pot for people from all over the world, which to me was a lot of fun, because I came from a small town where I never met anybody except in the small town, and they were very more redneck and didn't really know what was going on as far as this world. And bodybuilding was a type of world that no one really agreed upon. They said it's kind of stupid. Why would you want to be narcissistic? Look in the mirror and look at your muscles. Well, we all know why we do it. So I moved here in 69, like I had said before, and I would go into Bill Pearl's and train. Then I go to Gold's, and I run into all the guys that we see in the magazines. Next thing I know, Joe Weider's in there, and we're talking, and he says, let me get some pictures of you and start putting you in the magazine along with the other guys, which he did. I did all of his modeling shots for his products, and I became one of the group. I never thought ever in my lifetime would this ever happen, because I remember living in Bakersfield and driving down to Santa Monica way before then. And the first time I saw Larry Scott on the beach walking around a pair of red trunks and his big arms, I said, that's the body I want. He had been training for 10 years already, and I was so impressed because he had every body part. He looked fantastic. So I thought I would train and have that in mind. That would be my goal. Well, now it's 50 years later. I did what I did, and it all worked out fine, and I built my body the way I wanted to back then. But going back in time and looking at some of these characters, a lot of you guys have asked me, where are they all today? Are they all dead? A lot of them are. Unfortunately, a lot of them are gone. A lot of them haven't trained in years, and when I try to get them for interviews, they don't want to be on camera because they're pretty much embarrassed that they don't look like they used to. I understand that, but still they have knowledge, and I think the knowledge is worth everything, no matter how you look, to bring it forward and share it with all of you. I ran into Don Howarth. I tried to get him on here, and I can't seem to get him to come on the show. He's not what he used to be, but he still has knowledge. I've asked Frank Zane 3 times. He still hasn't got back to me. Franco, I can't get a hold of. Arnold, I put it out to several times. So far, no response. So it's not me. I'm trying. I'm really trying to do this because if we could get together, if I could get Arnold on this show, and you guys want to write to him and ask him, he and I would have so many stories that would drive you nuts, because we have stories that went on that nobody knows about. I mean, some funny stuff that you would never believe, especially in the marina with the girls we picked up and things that we did, because it was crazy. You have to remember, the 70s was pretty much a free love era. It was the hippie era, and nothing stood in your way of going out and getting sex and whatever you want to do. It was all there. In fact, it was so much, it was almost like a kid in a candy store. And if you were a bodybuilder, even better, because no one really saw anybody that had muscular bodies. It was just guys and average guys. But when you'd walk into a club at night in the marina and you had this body, the girls would go like, oh my God, look at that guy. So you really had the world in the palm of your hands. I just like to share this stuff because I think it's interesting, and I found some videos on the internet from the 80s down at Gold's when it was a whole different era with the mullets. And I looked in the gym. The gyms were packed playing Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John, and I put a little bit of that up. It was a different era then too, but 70s was great, but 80s was good too. 80s had a lot of good guys, like Mike Christian and some of those guys, and Samir. They were all great bodybuilders, and they're still all around today. Nice guys. I'm going to get some of them. And Samir I've had on. Mike Christian said he'd come on, and Lee Haney said he'd come on. They have a lot of knowledge as well. These guys have fantastic bodies. It was just a little different mindset in training, a little different mindset in what you're going to take as far as supplements and drugs and all that kind of thing. In the 70s, and everybody says, oh yeah, you guys are on drugs, you're on drugs. Well, yeah, there was D-ball, there was Deca, and there was testosterone, and there was Anavar. Pretty much that's it. Cytomel thyroid you would use to cut up, but it's kind of dangerous because it throws your thyroid off. The rest was just diet. Now people said, what'd you do for cardio? I've heard this tons of times. What did we do for cardio? We didn't have cardio because there were no bicycles in the machine. There were the gym, there were no treadmills, there were no Stairmasters. It was just weights. So if you really wanted to be ripped, it was drop your carbs. Maybe once in a while we go take a run on the sand down by the beach, but it was a short run, 5-10 minutes. That's not going to burn fat. But it was really, really tight diet. And so the next question is, how did you train so hard on no carbs? I don't know. I don't know, because they can't do it today. But I really did have no carbs, and most of the guys didn't either. Sundays were the junk day, and you carved up and you pumped up from the carbs. And during the week, you would introduce a little bit now and then. Now, Zabel Kazuski, who had the best abs back then, I don't know if anybody remembers Zabel. He was a very well-known bodybuilder. Joe Gold's right-hand man, ran the gym. A really, really good guy, very laid back. He'd sit in a barber chair at the desk that Joe got him, and he would just close his eyes with the sunglasses on and go to sleep. Somebody would come in to join the gym, and they'd say, hey, Zabel, this guy wants to join the gym. He says, can't you see I'm busy? I'm napping. And then I heard another story that someone coming in to buy a jacket that said World Gym on it, and he told the guy, we don't have any. We're sold out. So Ed Giuliani went up to him and asked him, he says, Zabel, we're not sold out. We've got 30 of them upstairs. Why don't you sell them one? And his answer was, well, if I sell that one, then we have to order more, so just forget about it. Anyway, this is the way it was thought back then. But Zabel told me one day about diet. I said, look, I watch my diet all week long. Yeah, I'm cut. I got abs. I got a small waist. And then my Sunday is my junk day, and I feel like, midweek I want something else. He says, go ahead and have some carbs Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, whatever you want to do, have some. Go back on your diet Thursday and Friday, and the next day have some more again. You're not going to get fat like that. You have to have a little bit about every third or fourth day. So I started doing that, and I realized I was getting a better pump, and then the diet really worked. As far as drugs went, I took D-ball for a while. I took testosterone for a while. Deca, I don't care for it. It does weird things to you. So, and I never did a lot. I never did more than a CC and 3 D-ball a day. Never more than that. And then Arnold gave me some Primabulin once, he and Franco. I blew up within a week. I mean, huge. This stuff came out of Germany. It was probably some of the best I've ever seen. Of course, you can't get it today because everything today is pretty much not real. So I got so big that it scared me, and I wanted to lose weight. I had a Volkswagen, couldn't fit into it. You always want to get bigger and bigger. But it got so big, I said, no, this is like really uncomfortable. So this is the way it was back then. We would all eat cheese omelets and cottage cheese and burger patties. That was the diet. There's no getting around that. Chicken sometimes, a lot of eggs. Ed Giuliani ate a lot of eggs, and I still do today because eggs are like the perfect food for protein. So this is what the 70s was like. The 80s, I moved out here and trained at World Gym in the valley, away from the beach. Joe Gold owned that one as well. I went from the low-carb, high-protein diet to a fish diet with carbs and no fats. It's just the complete opposite. I wanted to see how it would work. Well, having fats worked for energy. It does give you energy. Missing the carbs really didn't matter because I was getting fats in there. And then the fish was leaner than meat, and I got really ripped. I mean, I got really ripped from that diet. Now, I felt good, it worked, and I stayed on it for a year. And then I switched back to the low carb again just because I don't even know why. So both those diets work pretty well. And people said, well, will they work today if you train? It's the same human body as we had back then. You put in there, you had 30, 20 years ago, whatever it is, it's going to work today too. Now you have these supplements out, and you have proteins, and you have protein bars, and you have vitamins, and you have this and that. I don't remember taking a lot of vitamins back then because they really weren't available, and I don't think they made any difference anyway. I mean, you do need some sort of supplement you get out of your food. Protein back then was pretty sparse too. You had Blair's protein, which is very expensive, but it worked very well. You had a milk and egg protein that I think worked real well. I mixed it with water. And then they had a beef protein that tasted really bad, and then I mixed it with water. And that would be in between meals. But for the most part, it was meals, and probably 4 to 5 meals a day. At night, I remember I had a little hibachi sitting out by my apartment. I'd make 2 hamburger patties with cheese, cottage cheese, and a small salad. That would be my dinner, basically almost every night. And people said, well, you get bored with it? You know what? I didn't. I actually began to crave it every night, which is kind of odd. And then I had a Presto burger, which many of you guys have written to me, they're still available, which I have one. You put a piece of burger patty between that Presto burger, cooks in about 2 minutes, and I would have that with eggs in the morning. That would be my protein in the morning breakfast. And then lunch would be, like I said, a cheese omelet and cottage cheese or whatever, and then mid-afternoon snack. This was the 70s diet for most people. I read about a lot of guys today. I hear about a lot of guys who are doing 10,000 calories a day, eating 6 meals a day. I could never do that. I just don't know where the food's going to go inside of me. It's too bloating for me. Maybe that's why these guys have the distended stomachs nowadays from eating like that. But back in the day, this is how it was. The 80s was, like I said, I switched to fish. I trained out here at World Gym. I got in really good shape out there. But again, the equipment was made by Joe Gold. That gym was sold to Steve Davis. Steve Davis sold it to somebody else. They moved it up about 10 miles up the hill from here. People didn't have any clue how to run a gym. They didn't have any clue it was Joe Gold's equipment. They disbanded the gym, and the equipment flew out of the building, and who knows where it is today. I wish I would have it. I wish I had some of the stuff because it was very unique. So that's kind of my take on the 70s and 80s. Every era changes. The 90s, that changed too. I can get into that at a different time. But the guys from the 70s are sparse. They're hard to find. If you go down to the beach to some of the contests, I ran into Bob Birdsong. I ran into Don Haworth. Kent Keene lives in assisted living. He doesn't have a very easy time getting around, so it's going to be kind of hard to get him on the show, but I don't mind going down to him. He's a great guy, as well as Bob Birdsong, and Bob says he'll come on. I'm going to get Anita Tinorino on here soon. That's Dennis Tinorino's wife, because she knows the history of bodybuilding very well, being married to Dennis. And so sometimes these wives have a lot of stories, and I sure want to hear them. I want to share them with you. So that's my take. It's a rainy day out here. I've got studio time right now, and I figured why not share it. Oh, one more thing. I got an email. They're doing a documentary on Cheech and Chong. Now, the funny thing was that Tommy Chong trained at World Gym back in the day, and he loaned me a video camera in 1979. There was the only one around to shoot my son after he was born for about a month and get him on video. And then I had to get the camera back. The problem is I put it on a Quasar video machine, and there's no way today to watch that video because they don't make Quasar anymore, and it doesn't match any other video. So they're doing a video on Tommy Chong and Cheech and Chong, and they want to know what I knew about it. I know that Tommy I saw once in a while, and he was at Universal Studios. He always stays in shape, and he bought 10 of my stringer back tank tops that I made back in the 80s. I was the only one to have these narrow tank tops back then. I designed them and I sold them, and then I started getting copied. And he bought 12 of them for a movie he was doing. So that was from back then. Anyway, I just want to share that with you. Stay tuned for more Rick's Corner. I have some more people coming on this next 2 weeks. They're going to be really, really good. And I love all you guys. We're going to have a good year 2016. Go to the gym and train. Go no matter what you do. Like I said, this morning was cold and wet, and that makes the joints hurt. The gym was packed. Went in and had a good workout, and I'm looking forward to the next one tomorrow. And I also want to tell you one more thing. We were talking about layoffs. This is a whole other subject, of course. Layoffs do help. I started taking about every third or fourth day off, and I feel more energy. But when I was on the road wrestling, I couldn't always get where I wanted to get. I remember coming back back to the beach, because I always kept my apartment. Went into Gold's Gym one night about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and I did arms. And because I'd been off for about 2 weeks, my arms pumped so much that I couldn't even pick them up. And how do you ever duplicate that pump again in your life? I mean, it's a time when you can do it, and there's a time later in life that it doesn't happen anymore for whatever reason. So I just wanted to share that with you. Stay tuned for more Rick's Corners. Have a wonderful year. Stay in touch with me. If you have anything you'd like me to talk about or bring up, please feel free to ask me. I have fun doing this, and I do it for you guys because I like to share this. You got to have somebody to share the past with the future. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
It's ricksracing.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.